welcome to Harpy Stitch. I'm Amy, and this is my first Flosstube. I thought I'd start with the introduction to get to know your stitcher. I am married. I have one adult child who recently got married. I have a cat named Dwimmer and a dog named Jester. My husband is helping me with my Flosstube as being my editor and doing all my visuals and my logo. I thank him for all his free work. I have two jobs. I am a school librarian and I work at a craft store on the weekend. I am hoping that I can do these every 2 weeks, though during the school year that might be a bit trickier since I work 7 days a week. I started stitching when I was about 13. The first thing I tried was a washcloth pattern that had a carousel horse, and so you put it on the band on the washcloth. I totally messed it up. Half the horse's butt was off of the cloth, so I kind of gave up on cross stitch for a while. Later in high school, my favorite cousin was getting married, so I got a stamped cross-stitch sampler for her wedding and gifted that to her. I kind of put away crafty needleworky things for a while because I was going to college. And then I made a needlepoint and stocking for my child when they were born. I also decided that I wanted a Christmas tree skirt, and I couldn't find one I liked, so I started looking around, and my first big entry into cross-stitch again was a Christmas tree skirt that was 4.5 feet wide. I definitely dove right in with both feet. I ended up not using that Christmas tree skirt for us because I had a coworker who got cancer and needed a lung transplant, and it went to a fundraiser to be auctioned off. After that, I kind of just was cross-stitching baby stockings for family members when they had babies and various gifts like that. So most of my FFOs were gifted and I don't have them anymore. I just recently discovered Flosstube, probably back in January or February. I make my own designs and I usually use PC Stitch, but I was getting frustrated with it because you can only make rectangle patterns. I was really hoping to find one that had like a stocking template since I make a lot of those and design some myself. The one I really wanted isn't made anymore. I was looking for videos to get reviews of different cross-stitch programs to make your own pattern. And I ran across the Giddy Stitcher on YouTube. She had a video reviewing various cross-stitch pattern creators, which were super helpful. She did a great job explaining the pros and cons of each. Most of the ones she reviewed were for very small patterns only, so I stuck with PC Stitch. Though I have been noticing people use WinStitch, so I might give that one a shot too. Michaela was my introduction to Flosstube, so I give her credit for my Flosstube viewing now. I didn't really start watching until about March, and I've been hitting Flosstube pretty hard since school got out at the beginning of June, now that I have the time. I thought I'd start with some of the get to know you questions that pop up on Flosstube pretty often. Things that I like to stitch, anything nerdy, Halloween, Christmassy, horror. I am my own designs, which range from usually really nerdy actually, book related or pop culture stuff. Before I learned about Flosstube, I didn't pay any attention to designer names or fabric dyers. So I have some FFOs that have fabric that I have no idea what it was named or who dyed it. So I apologize. I just started keeping track of that recently. I thought I'd start with some of the standard questions of get to know your Flosstuber tags that people use all the time on Flosstube. My favorite movies are Alien, Terminator, Princess Bride, a big Star Wars fan, Lord of the Rings. I like horror movies, so that comes into a lot of the stuff that I like to stitch. Harry Potter series, The Fifth Element, The Breakfast Club, and many, many more. One of my favorite movies is Nightmare Before Christmas, so I've done a couple of Nightmare Before Christmas projects, including a stitch along, which I'll show you in a little bit, and a stocking that I made for my niece. Favorite books include It by Stephen King, The Stand by Stephen King, Perdido Street Station by China Mia Val, the Harry Potter series, the Dark Sword trilogy, the Wheel of Time series, the Game of Thrones series. I almost forgot House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski is another favorite. Very strange experimental horror / literature. Favorite TV shows, Doctor Who, Firefly, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, all but the last season of Lost, Fringe, which I never finished, but I really enjoyed what I saw, I'm really enjoying Yellow Jackets right now. What I've seen of Barry is really good. I like the old Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy show. The new movie's pretty fun too, but the show I think was better. Favorite games, I used to play WoW quite a bit. That's World of Warcraft for those of you who don't play video games. Project Zomboid I tried and that was pretty fun. Zoo Tycoon. I don't play video games very much because most of the time I end up just deciding I'd rather be cross-stitching, so I tend to watch my husband play while I cross-stitch. We do have a weekly game with our kid and some friends where we play Deadlands, which is a role-playing game, a tabletop role-playing game. And it's a weird Wild West, so we get to play cowboys, but also deal with supernatural elements and weird advanced technology kind of stuff. And we record that and we post it. So if you would like to see a bunch of noobs play a game set in the Wild West, feel free to check it out. I would like to branch out and try some other crafts. I'm about to make my first quilt with a friend of mine. Partly, I think, because I was inspired by another Flosstuber, Animal Instincts, Kelly. She did a bunch of the Be Well and Stitch designs during COVID and then turned them into a giant quilt. And I have a terrible time finishing projects fully. So I thought with all my Halloween and Christmas stuff that I like to do, it might be nice to turn them into a holiday themed quilt. I might do that in the future. I also would like to learn how to paint and maybe try a few other crafts as well that I've never tried before. So I've mentioned 2 of the Flosstubers I've been watching. I think I'm going to try to do 3 Flosstubers an episode that I've really enjoyed. My third for this episode then would be Cinematic Stitches. Michaela, she does a lot of stuff that I really enjoy. She's very much into movies and video games and books. Now that I've done all the intro stuff, I thought I would start off with finishing a few of my FFOs. As I said, most of my FFOs aren't here because I usually end up gifting them to somebody. So you can see part of my FFOs behind me. It is a Calvin blanket that I made for my husband because he's a huge Calvin and Hobbes fan. So there are 9 different faces of Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes by Bill Watterson. I designed all of the patterns myself. It is done on Ann cloth that I got at my local LNS, Stitchville USA. You can order from them online. So the first thing I'm going to show you is a door hanger that I made. I have this book from Stony Creek that has door hangers for every month, and I know there's probably a glare. And I made the October one because that is my favorite month. Halloween is. This was some wired ribbon that I got at the craft store, so it doesn't have a count. There's some specialty variegated thread here. I made a hanger for it out of that, and I did a angled bottom. I'm not sure I like how it turned out. I actually have gotten some new wired ribbon that's wider, and I think it would look better, so I might entirely redo this one. A lot of my FFOs are kits that I got in magazine subscriptions. So this is a fairy by Mary Cecily Baker. And then ideally you put it in a frame, which I haven't done. I just enjoyed stitching it. This is another one that I designed myself. And this is a dish towel that we have actually been using. So it's not been just finished up and, you know, put away. It's been a used dish towel. So since we like Calvin and Hobbes in this house, I did Calvin and Hobbes sleeping together and used some waste fabric to put it on just a regular dish towel and then took it off. That was a learning experience. I'd never used waste fabric. My only complaint about waste fabric is that it pretty much only comes in 14 count. If you know of a source where I can get it for different counts, I would love to hear about it. Here are a couple of bookmarks that I designed myself. I'm going to share them at the same time. A biohazard bookmark and I Speak for the Trees, which I did in honor of Earth Day many years ago. And I love the book, The Lorax. So I'm going to show you some cards that they were kits that came in with a magazine. Most of these that I've made, I've given to people as thank yous or for different occasions. So these don't really need the backdrop. because they're not see-through. So these I just wait until I find somebody that I think would like them, or if for the Christmas ones, I tend to give them to people like when we do Secret Santa at work. And most of these, I think all of these came from the World of Cross Stitching, various issues. That is my favorite cross stitch magazine. It tends to have designs that I like better than most of the American ones. So this is something that I got in my May issue of World of Cross Stitch. They had these little kits to make a ladybug and a bumblebee, and they came with little frames. And so I made them, but the kit came with white Aida, and I switched it out for some orange Aida that I had to make them look more like flowers. And instead of putting hangers, I added magnets on the back. And I think they really pop off the orange. So this came from Just Cross Stitch 2015, their Halloween edition, Scarecrow Silhouette. It is by Nancy Greenberg from Pickleberg Designs. The pattern called for orange pumpkin Zweigart, but I used this more mottled fabric that gave a feeling of a autumn sunset. This is another kit I got from Cross Stitch magazine. It is a little Easter bunny, and I don't usually work on the plastic, but this was just too cute. And then you flip it over and you get his little bunny butt. And bunny butts are always fun. This is a poppy kit that I got from my Secret Santa at work. In fact, the lady who gave it to me is the one that is going to teach me how to quilt. And I just haven't framed it. But it was fun to stitch. All right, the next thing I'm going to show you is Twitter Blue. It is part of the Courtney collection. It was done on 40 count light blue fabric. It is from the Just Cross Stitch 2009 Christmas edition. I did not use the called for thread, which was a solid color. Instead, I used a blue variegated thread. All right, the next is a geometric cross stitch washcloth. It came from a design library in the World of Cross Stitching, issue 254. And I just had some of these washcloths. I think I inherited them from my grandmother. And I was like, well, I've got them. I might as well make something. And so I made this one. And again, it's actually being used. It's not just for decoration. Another one that I made was this retro media design, which was just part, and then I repeated the design. It is from the design library in issue number 279. And I have noticed that I need to fix one of the records. This is a bat washcloth from the Halloween party set, issue number 272. I did it on the washcloth instead of on canvas. This is a Nightmare Before Christmas stitch along that I did. It was from Stitchonomy, I think. I will put the information down below. I did make some changes to it. So what I did is, instead of using DMC 310 black, I used a variegated for the border. I moved the doctor up in here so I could fit in another character. It was called for French knots, which I hate making French knots. So I used beads for the Christmas wreath and the eyes. I used some metallic thread for the ornaments in the Christmas tree, Zero's collar and eyes, and I added blending filament. Zero is glow in the dark, as is the lights in the windows, and I mixed glow in the dark with Oogie Boogie's mouth. And this Oogie Boogie was added using Stitch Fiddle by participant in the stitch along. It wasn't part of the original design. I also changed it, and I took Fuzzy Wuzzy thread and made the Santa beard and hat, and Santa's beard only went to the border, and I put him on the bottom so I could give him a long beard, because Santa has to have a long beard. Now, these came with one of my magazines. It's a series of Christmas charts. This was from World of Cross Stitch, number 261. I have finished some of these designs that I started, but not all of them. They are gift tags. So I have a few small finishes, but I haven't finished the series. And ideally you would put them on gift tags. I don't know what I will do with them. Next are my works in progress. So since I do paper, I usually do a working copy. This design I found on clearance at my LNS, and I was so excited to stitch it that when I got all the fabric and everything, I couldn't wait to start it, and my printer was acting up, so I skipped making a working copy. So I did this on Picture This Plus Mystic 36 count. It is 2/2. I used the call for flosses except for one because my LNS didn't have it, so I made a substitution. I started this on May 29th of this year, and this is what I have done so far. I will have my husband insert an image of the finished product. I am doing this one on a scroll bar so that I don't have to move it when I start beading. And it is almost all variegated thread. I did not replace the called for threads, which were Weeks Dye Works and Gentle Arts with DMC like I usually do. I decided to spend a little bit more because I loved it so much. This next one is Heaven and Earth Designs. I had them convert the Wisdom design by Cherry Gerhardt, let me look at the name. I'm messing it up.
5 hours later.
Cherry Gerhardt, and I had them turn it into a stocking. So they do a custom service, and you can take any full design they have and have them convert it to something else for you. So I had them do that, and I am making this for my child because the stocking I made them when they were small was needlepoint, and it's wearing through, and it's a teddy bear, and they've kind of outgrown that, and they are part of the Ravenclaw house in Harry Potter, so I am making her Ravenclaw Christmas stocking. And I've taken all of these out of the hoops just for this video, so nothing is ironed. The next design is a Stitch Stocking by Cross Stitch Style Arts. I started it on March 5th. It is on printed 14 count Ada. I think it is, I'm not sure who it is. It's a Christmas print. So it's like snowflakes. And there's no back stitching in this design. I haven't done any substitutions except for the fabric, and it is meant to be a full coverage piece. But since I changed to the snowflakes, I'm not doing the full coverage because it was a nighttime scene. And the stuff that was supposed to be stars and yellow, I'm changing to white with sparkly thread to simulate snowflakes instead. And when I bought the pattern, they've updated the pattern, so it's a little different now on their Etsy store. It didn't have a place for a name. I'm gonna have to chart that myself, but they've now changed the stocking design. So I'm taking out the moon and turning everything into snow instead of stars, and then I'll put the name at the top. The only real thing that I ran into that was difficult with this, because it's a very simple pattern, is that they didn't set up any overlap between the pages, so it makes it really hard sometimes to line up the stitches, so you have to be very careful with your counting. Next, this is the Goth Bookcase Temperature Stitch Along. It was actually for 2022, but I was trying to be good and write down all of my temperatures, and then it was almost the end of the year, and I said, forget it, I'm just going to do it for 2023. So I am using the called for floss. I did get a special fabric though. It is French Lilac by Picture This Plus, and I bought some more of it so I could do the temperature legend as a side piece to go with it, so that people know what the different temperatures may mean, or the different colors mean temperature wise. I am pretty much up to date. I think I might be 2 days behind on the books. I haven't really made many changes. The only things that I did different than were called for is I changed this kitty cat into our kitty cat. And I used some variegated thread for the cat and the plant leaves. And then when it came to the crystal ball, the unk, and anything that might be shiny, I added some blending filament to give it a little bit of a sheen. And one of the things that I did is I wanted the high and low temperatures. So for the winter months, the big part of the book is the low temperature, because that's what everybody pays attention to when it's cold. And then the tidal band is the high. And then for the summer months, when it's warm and everybody's worried about how hot it is, the big part of the book is the high temperature, and the tidal band is the low temperature, because I wanted to show both high and low rather than just one or the other. All right, so that was my current works in progress. Plans. I've been trying to decide if I wanted to do plans or haul first, but some of it has overlap. So I think I'm going to do my haul and then add my plans that kind of mix in with my haul at the end, because I just have a couple of big plans coming up. So one of the things, excuse me, that I found at the craft store is, and I think I'm actually going to put this behind it, is there were these wall decorations that were just, it's plastic in here, but it's perfect gridding for cross stitch. So I got this and the other one I can't put on that thing because it's too big. This sun, and I thought it would be fun to maybe cross stitch a little design on top of the plastic net. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I just think it would be neat. So if you have any ideas, if you want to make any suggestions about what I could put on there, I thought maybe with the sun I could do some sort of sailboat or something like that. I don't know yet. I just thought it would be fun and different. So a couple other things that I picked up at the craft store is some fabric, because they finally started carrying more cross stitch supplies again, including some Aida that is not just plain white or ivory or oatmeal, but some colors. So this, and I know you probably can't see it because it's camera and iridescent doesn't do well, is a light pink iridescent fabric. Then this one is kind of a pale peach yellow, kind of like a very calm sunset. And these are all 14 count Aida. This one is a blue, purple, and pink, so it kind of looks like a cat fairy fantasy sky. And then this one is a bit of green and blue and very nice, kind of just subtle. And I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet, but I had to get them. All right, some more haul. This is Picture This Plus French Lilac that I did the Goth Temp Stitch on without anything on it. It is 28 count. I thought it was perfect for the Goth Temp Stitch because it has, to me, a very Victorian wallpaper kind of feel. And there are like actual flowers, and that was really popular. So I thought it fit perfectly with the Goth Temp Stitch. This is Needle Bling, I think it is, 32 count Yellowstone. And I had a couple of projects I was going to do, and I thought this was going to be a good fit, but I found something that I liked even better. So I'm going to actually do that on this. And this one I got at my local stitch store. It is, I think it's Serafina. It's just an abbreviation, but I think it's Serafina 40 count Haunted. And it was the only piece they had of it. And I have no idea what I'm going to stitch on it yet, because it's got to be perfect. Whatever I put on this has to be perfect. But it is like this really crazy, weird, kind of dark purple green, very, spooky forest look. The next piece, tongue-tied. The next piece of cloth that I have is a cashel linen. It is very smoky white. It is 28 count, and I already know what I am going to put on this, which I will explain to you a little bit in my plans. It will be a set of gifts for my son-in-law. It's variegated and has very nice, like, natural feel to it. It is going to be a set of 8 pentacles, for he is Wiccan and he celebrates his holidays. There's 8 Wiccan holidays, and I am going to make symbols for each holiday to go over his altar for when they're being celebrated. And he's requested that they're only 4 inches in size, so I get to make them very teeny tiny. So now is haul. I showed a couple of pieces of haul because they were big and awkward. But I got this Stitchy journal, which I will now be using to keep track of my projects and the fabric and everything that I use, which I haven't been doing previously. Proof that I have the patience to stab something 1,000 times. I also picked up the 2022 Collector's Edition Halloween. So many cute things. This is another reason I think maybe I will just make a bunch of these and then fit them all into a quilt together. And I've already pre-ordered the 2023 Halloween. I just recently renewed my subscription to World of Cross Stitching. And I've gotten my first 2 issues. I will have to go back and get the February issue because they have Matilda in this one and they have the Big Friendly Giant. And since I work in an elementary library, I would love to make up a series of children's books to cross stitches to put in my library. And the little free one for this month that just arrived is so cute. It's a little cross stitching mouse. Stitchy Plans. In addition to the set of pentacles for my son-in-law, 2001 I joined the Halloween storybook Stitch Along, and I have it kitted up mostly. I am going to do it on oatmeal Ada. Very exciting, I know, but I thought it looked like, old-fashioned storybook paper. And instead of doing the border in traditional black, I am going to do it in étoile to give it a little bit of sparkle. So I am doing, one of the things in my plans is to do the Overlook Stitch Along. It is from the King Verse X Stitch Facebook group. It was for last year and I hadn't got started because I had too many other projects. And at first I picked out a fabric and I really liked the color, but it was too small because I decided I could not make the Overlook Hotel tiny. So I changed my fabric so that I could make it bigger. And I am going to put it on this 32 count Belfast linen in Stormy Clouds. And I'm going to do it 2/2 to make it big enough to suit my needs, because something as evil as the Overlook should not be tiny. So I'm very looking forward to that. There's a couple of variations on the front. One that has the topiary animals in the front on fire and one that doesn't. And I think I might do half and half. Or one's half of it is on fire and one half isn't, so I can use both because I think that would be fun. I have gotten my haul and my plans kind of mixed together, but that's okay. I am going to be doing a Shawshank Redemption sampler. It's one that I've done many times. I have what I call a stitch jockey job where he designs it and he sells them to people and I stitch them for him because he doesn't have the time or the desire, or I don't know if he knows how to cross stitch. So I will be starting that again soon. I will add a picture here. I've done about 13 of them and I've got about 7 more to go. And I don't mind doing it all. Some things that I've recently bought. Thanks to Cinematic Stitches, I learned of Stitch for Sage, who does Night Studio. So I bought 4 of her designs. Dead Girl Outlaw, I think. Meg the Moth Woman, and then a swallowtail moth, I think, to help her because she just had to have brain surgery. The Outlaws are the ones I was going to put on the yellow, but I changed my mind. I found this fabric called Pecan, and it just makes me think of like grasslands, pueblos, Wild West. So I've got that on order, and I can't wait for it to get here so I can stitch, because it fits right in with my husband and I playing Deadlands. And so I got the male and the female for us. And I may adjust the words to fit us better, or I might change the dates on the bottom to the year that we got married. Another thing that I purchased was the Pride Charity Bundle. that is available for Pride this month. For $10, you can get 16 different designs by 16 different designers. It benefits Rainbow Railroad and the Trans Law Center. I will include all the information for both for that as well. I'm really excited. There's a couple of really cute things that I can't wait to stitch. There's a trans zebra that is just adorable. There's a queer goth, which is a little pink coffin, which is also really cute. So I'm hoping to maybe take some of those designs and maybe turn them into buttons. And I think it would be really fun. There's a set of different flowers that have the different colors for the different communities in LGBTQ plus that I think would be really cute to pull out individually, and people could have those individual things as buttons. So I'm very excited to do those as well. And then there was a sale on Heaven and Earth Designs, or HADE, not that long ago. I had already bought the stocking for my child, but I had been eyeing several patterns and I only got 2. I was very restrained. I got Simply Meant to Be because I'm a huge Nightmare Before Christmas fan. I'm trying to decide if there's enough black in the background that I could get some really cool fabric and leave that part off, or if I should just do it entirely full coverage. And then the Old World map, because maps are just amazing, and it's got all the really fancy motifs of like illustrated old-fashioned books in the corners, which I think are gorgeous. So I'm really looking forward to getting to start on those. And another gift for my husband to go with the blanket behind me is I have taken the image of Calvin destroying his town like he's Godzilla, because my husband also loves Godzilla, and I have already made it into a pattern that will be movie poster size. In fact, I bought an entire rack thing that because I couldn't find a scroll bar wide enough. So just for that project. So that's another one I really want to work on, which will take forever. But I'm looking forward to doing it as well. I think that's all of my stitchy plans, my traditional stitchy plans. But one of the things that I've never tried is embroidery. And so for Christmas, I got myself this. And I am thinking about documenting my attempts at embroidery since I've never done it before. This came with everything to do 2 of the projects in here, and they were the 2 easiest. So I'm going to try at least one of these this summer. And I also found this at my craft store, and the bee is gorgeous as well as some of the others, but this looks a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to start with the easier one and try one of the Nightmare Before Christmas. And I know that this is also not cross stitch related, but I'm very excited about my upcoming quilt because it's my first one. And my friend helped me pick out some fabric, and I didn't want to do anything super traditional. It will be a carpet wheel quilt. So I love like jellyfish and ocean and stuff. So I picked out as my feature fabric this black jellyfish, purple and pink fabric. And then I am also going to have, this will be my other featured color, this mottled purple. I have this just light purple as my background. And then for my border, I got this blue that is all shimmery and iridescent to make it feel more like the ocean. And we're going to start cutting it out on Monday. So, well, depending on when this goes up. So I am very excited. I hope you enjoyed it or found some inspiration. I will put all of the things that were talked about, any links that I have to the different groups in the description. If you did like it, please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again in 2 weeks. Don't forget to hit the bell.